Hey everybody, how are you doing? My name's Flynn and I'm back and I'm here with Bill Hope. Bill, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Lovely to see you, Flynn.
Yeah, you too, you too. So it's been a while since we've done an Adobe Live. I was just trying to do my maths. I can't even remember the last time we were here hanging out with you all. I've missed you guys. It's great to be back. We've got lots of stuff coming before the end of the year and then all sorts of crazy stuff planned for next year. So we're super excited. Let's say hi to some good friends. Andrew Hochradel. I've just been like in your chat, like in all these streams, like living vicariously through you. Been doing an amazing job. Great to see you, Festus, as well. Ariana, Audra, R&B. Good to see you. Johanna's here looking after us. Oh my God, it feels like old times. Feel like I'm feel like I'm back home. This is great. Got a green screen. What is going on? So excited to be hanging out with you guys. So just very quickly, where have we been? So the Sydney team is very small. You're looking at about 50% of it. And when Adobe MAX came along, we were really excited that we were able to contribute a lot of people from Asia Pacific region. That's never happened before. And so we were essentially just full-time on that. It's been hectic. It's been crazy. So we've been working really hard on that. Johanna's been helping us out with that. We've had lots of people from the region from 7 different countries in Asia Pacific. I'm sure you guys have heard so much about Max by now, so I won't harp on about it. But that's where we've been. We've been working on that and producing a lot of that content. And so it's so nice to be back hanging out with you all. And Bill has very graciously given up a little bit of his time with his now busy schedule, which we'll get into in a little bit. But first, what we want to do is just kind of play around with Fresco, some of the things that Bill has been playing with since Adobe MAX. So we're going to be here for an hour. We're going to be hanging out. But Bill, you've been playing around with Fresco. A couple of the new features have been kind of
Yes.
sticking out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. There's a really nice live stream to get back into because it's sort of a nice chill one. We're just going to be doing a little bit of gentle sketching in Fresco, but yeah, some of the new tools that are coming on are really fun and really kind of just really nice, relaxing, fun things to play around with. It's kind of amazing what the technology is doing, but on the interface, it's just like a really relaxing bit of drawing to do. So yeah, very keen for this one.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, great. So, guys, we're not going to do Q&A in the middle or anything like that. Just let us know if you have any questions throughout the stream and say hello. If you're watching on YouTube or anywhere else like that, jump over to behance.net/live. That's a chat that we're going to be using, and it's wonderful to see you all. Should we jump over to your iPad screen that I have? I'm very proud of my little mock-up that I've done here.
Oh yeah, wait until you see it, guys. This is impressive.
We've been upgraded.
Um,
Yeah, that's a cool snake.
so yeah, you can see this beautiful, beautiful setup that Flynn's made for us, where you can see my iPad screen. So here I am in Fresco, and the thing we wanted to kind of look at mainly today, and the tool I'm really excited about. Some of you might have seen it was announced as part of Adobe Live that. These new multicolour brushes that have come out in Fresco. So if you have a look on my screen here, you can see this big exciting snake that goes all the way down through my canvas. And the cool thing about this snake is that it's all, apart from the face, it's all just one brush stroke. It was all just done in one go. And the way that I've done that is using the new multicolour brushes. So we're going to play around with a little bit of that today. I'll show you how to set them up and how to adapt them and use them. And then we might just do 1 or 2 quick drawings using those tools. So if any of you have done sort of any kind of digital drawing before, you know that for the most part, you just choose one color at a time. If you're really technical in Photoshop, you might use a bit of foreground, background color mixer. And you can get a little bit of tonal variation there. But with this new multicolor palette that has come out, you can do all sorts of really cool effects. So I'm just going to lose the snake now. We've got a nice blank canvas, and I'll show you what I mean. So if I go to my color picker, I'm just going to click a nice bright red. We've just got a standard brush. I'm going to go with the gritty brush. Oh, not a bit of a layer. And very standard. This is what you expect from any kind of digital drawing. Now, what you can do is, if you've ever used Fresco before, you know there's an additional a touch shortcut button. It's kind of like, I'd say it's analogous to sort of the shift key on a computer.
Yeah.
And if you go to your settings, at the top, the little cog, and further down, there's something you can see. We've got the touch shortcut, which you can turn on or off. So I've got that on. And what you can do with that is usually you're used to just using one finger to do a color selection. So I can pick up the color red, I can pick up the color white by just touching with my finger. Easy peasy. But if I want to try and select multiple colors, I'm just going to draw a couple down on my palette. So I've got a bit of red here, I'm going to do some orange. Over here, I'm going to choose some yellow, and I'm just going to paint those onto my palette. Now, so if I hold my finger over the color selector, you can see it goes yellow, red, orange, yellow, red, orange, and I can just pick any of those colors. But if I put one finger on the touch shortcut, that's sort of my shift key, and then I hold my color picker there, you can see just in the top right-hand corner, there's a thing that's come up that said multiple colors, and you can see 3 colors in my color selection. So I'm going to choose that. And now if you look down in my color selection, I've currently got 3 different colors selected at the same time, which to someone who's been drawing digitally for 10 years, kind of just like, it's just sort of breaking of my reality. There's 1 color in the color selector. Oh my God, there's 3 now. How do I deal with this? So I was totally blown away when I started playing around with this recently. And you start drawing and 3 colors come out of the end of your... I don't know if any of you ever played around with like a multicolour pencil. You can get ones with different coloured leads in the same pencil. This is kind of it, but with so much more variability. So here I am just using a standard pixel brush, and it's just a lot of fun. It's really fun painting with these things. You get these fantastic 3D effects coming out because the brush is sort of moving those 3 different colours all together. Let's just lose that and start on a new layer. I'll get a nice big brush. And you get all these fantastic effects. So where my head's kind of at right now with these is I love just putting the brushes down. I haven't really got that far into developing, sort of putting these into a picture. So that's what we're going to try today. And I think it's going to be really fun, but they're just a joy, just a joy to play around with. So where this gets really exciting is when you go to the live brushes. So just under the pixel brushes on the left panel are the live brushes. So I've just got the free version of Fresco that I'm using today. I want to use the one that everyone's using or is most accessible. So we've got the watercolor or the oil brushes to play around with. So let me just grab a watercolor wash soft. And we're going to get a sort of largish brush with that. And if I start painting with that, you see all those colors smoothly blending together as part of the one brush. If I pass them over each other, they blend into each other there. And it's so cool to play around with. So we've got this kind of spectrum of red to orange to yellow that we're working with right now, but it's kind of cool playing around with something a little bit more adventurous in terms of color. So
you just used the watercolor brushes. There was a question from Ariana. Does the multicolor only work for the pixel brushes?
That's a very good question. I actually have not tried that. I think I've just switched to a vector brush and it's turned to a single color. So I'm going to say it works for your live brushes and it works for your pixel brushes,
but maybe not vector. Yeah, which would make sense, like understanding the way that vectors work. So that would make sense.
Yeah, you might be adding a little bit more complexity than you're used to if you're using multicolored vector brushes at the gate. But I think it's a possibility. And the amazing thing is, so the guy who has been working largely on developing these is a guy called Carl T. Webster, who everyone in the live stream probably knows. And I was watching one of his streams, and in the comments, people were suggesting, oh, your brush you should try and get the brush to do this. You should add this feature. And he says, oh yeah, great. I'll talk to the development team next week. So you should check out some of Kyle's brushes because he's very open to sort of where this technology is developing. And Fresco is kind of exciting in that all these new features are getting added. So it's a work in progress. So let Adobe know. I think they would be very open to looking at things like that. All right, so I'm gonna just go grab a single color again. Oh, very big brush. And I'm gonna paint a little bit of this intense green. Let's go for the other end of the spectrum. We're gonna go for this intense sort of pink. And then maybe we'll get a full-on blue there. So we've got this really wide spectrum of color that we're playing with. So again, I'm gonna just touch down on my sort of shift key, I'm calling it. And I'm going to select those three colors. I might just bring those together a little. Oh, and I'm painting with them already. So we've got this very cool brush here. So if I go back to my live brushes, I'm going to pick up one of the oil brushes. Let's get a oil paint filbert and start painting. Oh, I've lost my additional colors. Let me try and do a different selection. All right, let's pick up that kind of pattern. And there we go. We've got all those colors coming together. And the way that the oil brushes work is they kind of work like a real oil brush. You start out with all these variations of colors, and then they sort of naturally mix together. So if I start working into this selection of colors that I've got here, you can see they all kind of mix. So what I'm finding with the oil ones is that you initially get all the colors, and then they sort of immediately start blending together quite quickly. So you can kind of get this fantastic variation, and then by the time you stroke, it's more sort of a blend of all those colors, which is really, really cool. So how I kind of got to my snake, when we go back to it here, is that I've started out literally with an oil brush, selecting those three colors, just painted this one. You can see I started with red and green and this kind of cyan color, and it's sort of gone through the snake, and by the time I've got to the end of my brush stroke, they've all kind of blended together, and the primary green has sort of taken the majority of the color up there. So one of the really fun things to do with this brush selection is that you can choose your colors, but then you can kind of go in and adapt and play with them, and pick up more than just individual colors. You can kind of pick up textures and paint with those. So it's a really different kind of way of thinking about painting with color. So let's start again on a fresh canvas layer, I'm gonna stick with just a pixel brush. So let's go with the Belgian Comics brush. It's nice and clear, so you can really see what's going on. Actually, no, maybe.
And while we're painting, I've got a question for the audience. My question for the audience is, just while we're going through, is, and just let us know in chat, is, do you have an iPad? Do you play around with this stuff? And as like more things keep coming to iPads and mobile devices, does it make you think, should I buy one if I don't have one? I'm just super curious as to like what, is the tail wagging the dog or the other way around? Because it's such a fun like toy, like to have an iPad, but now there's so many stuff that is coming out on it. Like, does it make anybody think, oh, maybe I should get one and put it into my workflow? Let us know.
Yeah, it's a really great question, I think, the iPad's been a really interesting device for me as well, in that I do use it now for kind of, I don't know, it's not a good term, but what I call sort of like my serious commercial work, or sort of like when I'm really sort of trying to push my art. I do use it sometimes, but for the most part, it's kind of this loose sketching, or sort of more relaxed drawing that I find it really useful for. But one of the things that's really surprised me is how much it's lended itself towards experimentation. I think I have like my standard workflow on my main desktop when I'm working in Photoshop, I'm very familiar with that, and that's kind of like really narrowing down and drilling down into this practice that I'm used to. But the iPad's been this great way of sort of opening up possibilities and trying out different things. So it's been really helpful for me in that way. All right. So I'm picking up my three different colors there, and we're going to do a little bit of painting with these. Now I'm just going to increase the size of the brush so you can see those three colors coming out together. Now, one of the really cool things with this is that you can click on your color selector on your left panel there, and you can see the three different colors selected in the little circle there. What I actually do is I can just drag my hue slider, and I can change the hue of those colors. So I've got the same combination of hues together, but sort of shifted along the RGB slider. So now when I start drawing, I've got this fantastic blue selection. I try it again, I've got this kind of wonderful purple color. And you can just keep doing that, and it's really fun to play with. And
so
it's not just the hue.
And that's affecting all three colors. So they're all moving along the spectrum, but at the same, like kind of at the same rate, but it's completely like change them. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and if you're, and you can also play around with the saturation of those and the brightness. So I can go a much sort of darker, desaturated version of the purple, and you really have a lot of flexibility with this, and it's this really fun way of combining them together. Yeah, so let's just quickly look at how that might work with some sort of painting with say a watercolor brush.
So as we do that, I have a question as well. So Johanna's asking, which I think is a great question because as I've played around with it as well, this has definitely happened to me. Bill, do you have any tips on how to prevent your work looking muddy with this approach?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think I remember when I first did one of the live streams with Fresco, I was talking about sort of one of the pros and possibly, I don't know if it's a con, but it's that the live brushes work like live brushes. So the muddiness that you get from mixing this many colors together is exactly what you get if you're really working with watercolors or oils. So the solution is kind of the same as how it would be with real watercolors and oils. And I think the solution is one, sort of planning ahead, so sort of thinking about where the picture is going to go, because when you're doing this sort of like loose sketching or selecting of different colors and painting on top of each other, you're sort of having fun and just building up all these different color profiles, and obviously they start mixing together and becoming a bit muddy. But if you're doing a drawing, like say I was doing, I'll show you another thing later, but if I was doing something like a fishbowl, as I started out with sort of this layer, and then I was going to build up a multicolor profile to paint in the fishbowl. So maybe I'll select a bunch of different blues that I'll put in here, maybe a little bit of a dark green. So I'm going to take my multicolor brush here, and we're going to do this through a watercolor brush. So I'm going to get a multicolor watercolor brush. So I've got my nice multicolor one there. And maybe I'll just do that as one stroke or something. But I'm sort of thinking ahead of like, how am I going to build up this color on these tones? And then it's not going to be a matter of sort of constantly iterating on that shape, but I'm just going to try and do it sort of cleanly in one go. The sort of overworking is where you end up sort of getting that muddiness. So that's one approach, and the same would kind of apply to oil, of sort of planning ahead and seeing how am I going to have that sort of economy of brush strokes to keep this clean. And the other way to do it, which is a bit simpler in digital terms, is just to say I change the hue of this one, I start painting on top, it's to just do it on a different layer. Or the thing that you can do in Fresco, which is really fun, is if you tap on your layer there, and you go down to the options, there's one that just is called dry layer, and it's like you just sort of fan down your piece of watercolor paper, and then it's all dried to the paper, and you can select a different color and start painting on top of that again. And this will help you sort of keep too much of that mixing muddiness from occurring. Yeah, so those would be my two solutions.
Yeah, I think that's great. And it's you compared it to like actual real life painting in watercolor and how they react to each other. But then there's all these cheats like Command Z, go back, which you can't do with watercolor. It's like using the eraser, or just going, just do another layer, and then they won't interact. So you have so many. There's a lot of flexibility there, I think, to play around with. Yeah. Oh, we've still got your iPad, but I think you might have frozen. Australian internet. We were having some issues before the stream as well. So Bill, we can still see your iPad moving, which is great. But you're frozen and I can't hear you. Hopefully it'll kick back in soon. So we can watch Bill. Let's check this out. Festus, about the iPad. yeah, it's pretty interesting. So Fetz is saying I don't have an iPad, but would love one. But at the Apple event 2 days ago, the new operating system will handle many, if not all, iOS apps, including Fresco on the Mac. Yes, very excited about that, which is going to be super cool. It'll be nice for everything just to be completely cross-platform like that. Let me just check something. Let me just check the stream. Everything looks good. Oh.
Hello.
Hey, buddy. Yeah, you're back.
Which there. Hopefully we're back working okay.
Yep, you're back now. We could still see the iPad, so your iPad was still connected, but you were frozen. Okay. So we could still see like everything happening up to the chicken.
Up to the chicken. Okay, yeah. Great. I didn't go too much further beyond that. So hopefully we're good to go. Okay, so what I was saying was that I thought a really good demonstration of these kind of brushes would be drawing something where we can do a sort of a couple of these fun multicolored strokes, but something that, again, like I was saying, we're not sort of trying to build up too much color. We can kind of keep them separate and allow the. I think this would be really great for drawings where you sort of letting the sort of beauty or the interest or the textures of the brushes sort of speak for themselves and be an accent of the picture. So I thought a rooster might be a good approach for that. Mm. So I've got my picture of a rooster here, and if you will bear with me, I will just do a little bit of quick sketching. So I'm going to lose the multicolor brushes. I'm going to just find a simple little pen that I like, and I'm going to start sketching this chicken. I've actually got a real life drawing of a chicken that I did here. This is one I did with a little reed pen. A bit of inspiration from some recent work.
Mm-hmm. How often does drawing a chicken come up?
Pretty regularly. I haven't done all that many roosters, but definitely a chicken drawing fan. They've got something about their sort of big puffy chests and their sort of slightly too serious expressions makes them very fun to draw. Yeah. And roosters have these actually sort of just absolutely amazing arrays of colors that they have. So I'm going to keep this nice and rough. And we were chatting about
iPads before, like as you were saying that. Ariana's saying, I finally purchased an iPad this year and I love it. I find that I've been creating more often because of it. That's great to hear.
Yeah, that's definitely been my experience as well. Sort of to the slight frustrations of my partner a little bit, I think, in that it used to be that I was restricted to drawing at my desk in my studio, but the iPad opens up all kinds of potentials for sort of like constantly having it with you. Yeah. I'm definitely drawing more, and I love how relaxed it is and how quick it is that you just sort of pick it up and start going for it straight away. Mm. All right. Sorry, I'm forgetting from our previous live streams. It's ducks, not chickens, that you have a sort of deep and abiding passion for, isn't it, Flynn?
It's ducks. Yeah. Okay. I did used to have chickens. I had chickens for a while too. They're pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, all right, that's a loose enough sketch. So what I'm going to try and replicate with this drawing is a kind of drawing I like to do where you have these sort of bold but slightly squiggly ink lines on top. Kind of what you'd call an ink and wash drawing in more traditional terms. And I'm going to try and sort of replicate that look in this drawing. So I've done my quick sketch, and I'm just going to drop the opacity off that layer, and then I'm going to start doing a bit of what I imagine would be sort of loose inky drawing. So I'm going to get a pen called Natural Inker. Right, I might just increase the size of that so we've got a little bit more sort of real estate to work with. And I'll shrink down my reference chicken. And I love these pens that sort of give you a little bit of the looseness that you might get out of a slightly more scratchy real life brush pen. So I'm sort of trying to allow mistakes to happen while I'm doing it and give it a bit more character.
So you've got a reference chicken this time. A lot of the streams, those that are familiar with some of the streams we've done, which are much more kind of freestyling from most of the time from memory. But how often, will you often find a reference and do it in a similar sort of way that you've done here, or have it like on your mobile phone and just kind of reference the sketch?
Yeah, no, I do like to use reference, but I like to do it like I'm doing now, where I've kind of got it. You can see that I'm using the chicken as sort of inspiration for the shape of the chicken, but I'm not sort of keeping myself restricted to exactly this chicken. So I've changed the legs and I'm changing the face and a little bit of the posture. So I like it to be sort of within arm's reach, but not something that I kind of feel restricted by in any way. I can sort of, if I was doing one from memory, I would kind of, I kind of understand the basics of what a rooster looks like, but I'm hoping to get a few more of those details that I might not know, and I wanted to reference the colors directly as well. So
yeah,
that's why I'm using it this time.
I like your quick little reference down the bottom. It's like amazing. So good.
Okay, right. So now I think it's time to start with some of these colors. So you can see I've got. Actually, I hadn't tried this before, but we can give it a go now on the stream to see if it works. But I might try and select the color texture, because you can select multiple colors, but you can actually select whole chunks of pixels to be your reference. So this might get it. We'll see if it works. So I'm going to hold down my Shift touch shortcut key, and I'm going to actually select the texture of those feathers. Oh, I've got to keep holding down the Shift. So you can see in our color reference, we've actually got the texture of those feathers there. So let me, so if I'm using a standard brush, it's kind of all mixed together a little bit. I think it might be better to have the colors a bit more separate. I think with this sort of so closely combined, those colors, yes, you got a little bit of the texture there. It's quite nice, but it's not the variation that I'm looking for. So what I might do is I will just select a couple of those key colors. So I want a bit of that yellow. Let's maybe go for a slightly brighter version of that. I'm going to paint down a little bit of that yellow. Let's get a bit of that nice deep orange color. And maybe I'll go for just a slightly darker red version of that color as well. So I'm just kind of painting myself a little palette of what I want to work with. Now I'm going to select those multiple colors there. That looks good.
So you're trying to put in. Oh, sorry, go on. Holding down the Shift key. Yeah, I was going to ask: Are you trying to make it like a exactly even? So it's like 33% of each color in this case, or would you? I mean, yeah, you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, you can play around with that variation, but for this purpose, yeah, I'm going to try out that amount. So I can see that color is kind of coming down here. So I'm going to use a nice big brush stroke there. I think the yellow actually was a bit more at the bottom, so maybe if I do it... Oh no, that looks good.
That's cool.
So I'm just going to try and get some of those nice textures together here. Paint a few of those on. And then I can go back and get my eraser and just sort of clean up that edge a little bit. But I'm just trying to get those beautiful variations in the color tone that you get with watercolor coming through. All right. Now let's try a similar thing, but I'm going to try just selecting some of these blues and browns here. So I can get a bit more of an intense blue. Let's go for a sort of darker gray tone there. And again, to stop, actually I'll try mixing those in a little bit, and then I can work over the top of it. So I might just have two colors in my selection this time. Got a two color selection. And again, we'll go back to our watercolor brush.
And you're keeping it on the same layer in this case because you want them to bleed in.
Same layer now. Yeah, to sort of just let those things bleed into each other. Um, and one of the great things in Fresco, which is really cool, is that it saves all of my color selections down the bottom here. So I want to fill in a little bit more of that orange that I missed before, and I can just pick up that color selection, and I'm back working with it. I don't have to do this little palette thing every time. So the head of my chicken there, fill in some of those little spots. And now I might just go with some individual colors. So I'm going to go with a really dark kind of black for the bottom of the chicken here. I'm just going to build up a bit of that tone. And yeah, I love this where you can sort of just push the color around. I'm going to pick up a bit of that dark red and sort of push some more of that in as well.
Working with watercolor seems like such a niche is probably too far, but I don't know, it seems quite different to like I guess standard drawing or illustration in like the understanding of how colors work and things. Do you have any tips on like people that might not have much experience with watercolor that might want to play around with it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is a really different kind of approach, and I don't know, watercolor's always been my sort of illustration hobby. I've always played with it a little bit, so I guess it's something I maybe don't think about as much, but it is a really different kind of approach. And the if anyone's keen, I mean, it's really fun to play around with Fresco, but you kind of have to understand. It would probably be slightly frustrating or confusing if you didn't understand that you're like it's the two words. It's water and it's color. You have to realize it's a liquid that you're playing around with. So you've got to sort of have an idea in your head of what the liquid does to the pigment that's suspended in it, and how those things interact and how they're going to bleed into each other. So sort of if I was playing around with it in the Fresco, I'd try and sort of pretend in my mind this is water, this is liquid that I'm using, and it's not something you can really control as tightly as something else. You kind of have to give into that looseness of it. And one of the ways that I sort of resolve that for myself is doing this ink and wash. I really like that I can have these nice tight black lines, and underneath I can kind of do something that's much more expressive and kind of gestural, and that I don't really have full control over. So with this, I'm not drawing a realistic chicken. I'm just drawing something that's going to be visually pleasing to me.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So so with the rest of this chicken, I might actually switch to some of the oil brushes and just see what we can do with those for the tail. And again, I don't want to be mixing these in too much, so I'm just going to start a new layer for that as well. So I'm going to pick up a filbert brush like that, and I think that looks really nice. And let's make a little one, and I'm just going to paint some of these colors. So it's got this beautiful gradation of this sort of light teal color going into that dark gray. So I'm just going to build up a bit of a palette for myself of those colors here. Maybe I'll get something really dark going in there. All right, that's feeling good. Maybe I'll get something even just a bit brighter than that blue there to work in. Yeah, so I'm just going to paint some of that in there. All right, so let's select this color. That feels like a good range there. All right, so if I get a slightly bigger brush, yeah, we've got those nice gradients there. I'm going to put the flow on full. Now I'm going to start sort of doing these kind of gestural lines for the tail. Might darken that selection just a little bit. Now again, I don't want to build up too much, so I'm just going to go to a new layer. I'm going to darken that selection that I've got. Bring the size down a little bit and start working back into that.
Nice. So you get that like really nice kind of layered effect that you'll have with feathers.
Yeah. And I've kind of got the dark feathers kind of going underneath those lighter red feathers. So again, I'm just going to make another layer. I might select some of that orange, that brighter color there, and sort of start working that back in. Maybe with some of those bright yellows over the top as well.
There's been some great questions. Let me know if you want me to ask them now, or we can
feel
make
free
sure
to ask questions
as we
go
roll.
along. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
I've actually had this issue myself. Johanna was asking, one of the issues I've had on occasion with the iPad is palm rejection drawing a few cheeky lines on it. Do you have any tips on mitigating that? So I guess like making the little marks with your hand accidentally.
Oh yeah. You can just turn that off, but I quite like using it. To be honest, I haven't had that much of a problem with it. I mean, I guess I don't know what Johanna's using. I think that maybe it's got a little bit better with the Series 2 pen. Maybe it's something that's more common with the first one, but
Right.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Cool. I've definitely done it before where I've, my fingers have, barely grazed and I've made some sort of mark and I'm thinking, where'd that come from? And not notice it. So it might be user error on my part. And Johanna was also asking, like, where do you usually get your references? Like, this rooster, do you just Google? Like, is that just what you do to find your references?
Yes. And I think there's a bit of an art to the old sort of finding reference things. I mean, there's lots of websites that have really good references for various things that you're looking for. Most of the time I will Google. Something I've started doing if I'm going to be using a reference in any kind of public forum like this, or if I'm going to be, certainly if I was going to be tracing anything, is that in Google you can search by images that are Creative Commons. So that's something that isn't copyrighted or that is free to use. And obviously, if you're just drawing for yourself, you can use whatever image you want, as long as you're not copying someone else's work. But I think it's a good thing to be aware of when you're looking for reference. I was just talking to my brother's been getting into drawing more, and he's been doing some anatomy work. And there's a website I was recommending to him, which is it's a British photographer, I think, called Scott Easton, who has a website called Bodies in Motion. And it's this incredible anatomy website where they've taken people doing, like gymnasts doing flips or ballet dancers or all these kind of things, and they've taken multiple shots of them in motion, and it's the most fantastic anatomy reference that you can use. So I'd really recommend that to anyone looking for references of the figure.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, okay. I'm just building a couple darker tones into my chicken here.
Steve saying the concerned look on the rooster's face is great, quite determined. Yeah, that serious face you were talking about. They still think they're dinosaurs, right?
Yeah, pretty much. That's a great way of looking at it. So I'm just going to flatten some of my layers so I'm not creating too much of a mess here. And I might start building up with just a standard brush, some of the details around the face. So he's going to have this big red eye. I'm going to sort of bring out a couple of highlights around that. Yeah, and maybe I'll start, what I might do is I want to sort of do a bit of a mixed media approach with that. So I'm going to find something, a brush that I can use for all kinds of scratchy things. I think that rough pencil will be a nice one. And I'm going to get another one of my multicolor selections. So let's go back to this one. And I might start just building up some additional tone.
So you're back onto the pixel brush now, like adding in a different texture layer.
Yeah, adding a bit more texture to those original ones that I started up. So I think I'm not taking my own advice, and I might be sort of overworking this guy a little bit, but that's okay.
Wow, time goes fast. We've got 15 minutes left, ladies and gentlemen, if you have more questions. Yeah. I think Steve was asking before, I may have missed it, so because you moved on to a different brush, but will the tilde key act as an eraser with the brush tool you were using before? I guess you'd have to have a keyboard.
That's a good point. It does. I didn't know that, but thank you, Steve. It does. It does do that. If you hold down Shift, there you go. I'm erasing. Yeah, that works well.
Nice.
Okay, well, if we've got 15 minutes, does anybody have any suggestions or questions or things they'd like me to try out? If not, I might just start on a new picture.
Cool. We'll give you guys a chance. Whatever the first is in chat, because we don't have a lot of time. So yeah, is that like a suggestion of something to draw to move on from the rooster?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. We're just going to take the first one. So first in, best dressed.
All right. I'm just going to clean up my rooster guy here a little bit.
There was a question I missed. I think I missed as well while we're just waiting for that response from chat. Is what brushes were you using? So I guess the main brush that you were using with the watercolor. There was a question there. So.
Yep. So the main brush, that I was using is the standard. It's a watercolor wash soft. So if you're in the free version, you've got five watercolor selections. Yes, I was using. Let me just get a new layer. I was using this standard flat watercolor brush there.
Cool.
Okie dokie. Any suggestions, or am I winging it?
You might be winging it.
That's all good. Okay. So I'm going to get a...
I mean, there was a suggestion. Joanna said, be curious of what you would do with the go-go brush. What's the go-go brush?
The go-go brush? Sorry, Joanna, you're going to have to clarify this. What's the go-go brush? Trying to find what it might be. FX? Sorry, not sure there, Joanna. So let me. I'm going to build up this light kind of texture. Actually, let me do it in watercolor. I'll show you one cool effect that you can get with watercolors.
We do have a suggestion of draw a lily or a flower.
A lily or a flower. That's great because I'm just about to draw some water. So
Perfect.
I can do a lily flower. So I'm just going to make a little spectrum of watercolor here. So I've got these ones here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my splatter brush. So it's a watercolor splatter brush, and it makes these nice kind of splatter effects. I'm going to have something jumping out. Maybe I'll have a frog jumping out of the water above a beautiful lily, of course. I'm going to do some splatter effects, and I love doing this where you sort of draw and it's on the paper, and then you get these beautiful sort of pattern appearing in your wet paper. So we've got our water, we've got our splash. I might do a very abstract kind of frog. So let's get this color selection back, and we'll get a sort of nice greenish variant of it. And then, so we're going quite abstract here. So I've got my nice multicolor frog figure. And let's draw some cute little eyes onto this guy. How are we doing for time, Flynn?
Got about 10 minutes, a little bit over 10 minutes left.
10 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Jessica's asking in chat, did you watch any sessions from this year's Adobe MAX? If so, what sessions did you like and would recommend to watch? There's so much, like you can't actually, I don't know if anyone's actually gotten through. I mean, I don't think anyone even at Adobe has gone through everything. There's seriously, it was like 72 hours of content. Like it's crazy. There's so much stuff up there. Bill, maybe I'll let you answer.
Flynn was telling me about his schedule of getting that whole session together, and it sounded unbelievable, the amount of stuff that was going on.
Yeah, there was a lot going on for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I checked out some of the stuff that old mate of the show, Ben Marriott, did. He had a really good session. So I checked out that, and a little bit of there's stuff to do with these new brushes that Carl T. Webster was doing. But no, it's been a busy little year for me, so I'm afraid I didn't get too much time to watch those things. So you can see I'm using a multicolor brush here for a sort of water lily, and I'm just getting some of those lovely variations in tone there. Now I might switch onto a new layer, so I don't... Actually, let me see what it looks like if I mix in a bit. So I'm going to switch that tonal brush to a green one. We're going to darken a little bit and bring the saturation up. Yeah, we might have that, and then I'll work on top of that stroke.
That's really cool. Like with the water, it like gives it kind of like a blurred underwater like kind of effect, which is really nice.
Yeah. No, it's a really cool kind of feature. So actually, I might have some sort of Actually, I just did that thing you were talking about, Joanna. I just painted with my hand, so it's a thing.
It is a thing. It happens.
Yeah.
It's big because I want to make sure we get to it. Yeah, you did a Creative Mornings talk really recently that I was in the audience for. Super cool. Which is maybe you could tell everyone about that. Johannes just shared a link to it in chat. I recommend you check it out. It's super cool. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joanna. I didn't realize it was up. So I did a talk as part of a series that happens in Sydney called Creative Mornings, and we were talking about sort of working in illustration and the difference between sort of being a generalist in illustration or being sort of a specialist. And I was just sort of generally discussing a bunch of the things that I've been working on this year, and I finished the talk with talking about this really exciting project that I've been doing, which is opening a gallery. So I'm opening a gallery in the town that I live in Australia called Katoomba, and we've got a new space opening up there that's going to be called Little Fish Art Space. So really excited to see how that goes. So I've been sort of in manic art production mode for the past couple of months, getting everything ready, and we should be ready to open in December. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's all happening.
That's awesome. And give Little Fish Art Space a follow. I think Johannes just shared it in chat. Which would be
fantastic.
super cool.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Yeah, and I've got lots of exciting stuff coming up as part of that. Actually, I'm planning on. I'll show you. So I've kind of done a little bit of my watercolor lily frog combination here, but I'll show you another thing that I've been working on using the same tools. And this is actually for the art space. So we've got some big space, and I was talking to a sign writer today, and we're having some sort of transparent vinyl print put up in the windows, and I'm working on a couple of these kind of drawings. So we've got this fish, and you can see I've used the watercolor with some of the different tones there, and again same splattery effect that I was talking about just before, and these are going to be part of sort of an installation within the space. So it's able to use these tools straight away for something that's going to be out in the world. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. Yeah, so we've got a couple other sessions that are coming up. Flynn, did you want to talk about some of the subject matters we're going to be covering there?
Well, I guess in terms of subject matters, because we've got a little bit of time left, if anybody has any suggestions of what you would like Bill to do, that would be super, super cool. We can play around with Fresco or something else, because we haven't locked them in yet. So we've got the dates, though. We'll be back next week with Bill on Friday. So same time, same channel, here on Friday, hanging out with you. But if you do have any ideas or what you would really like to see, let us know in the next sort of 5 minutes. Or Bill, did you have something that you really want to do?
I'm not sure. I'm kind of open to exploring. I mean, these opportunity for me to sort of try a couple different things.
Every time I have you on, all I really want to do is do like the audience participation, where chat just tells you what to draw and we kind of move on. I just always have a blast, and it's just such a relaxing kind of stream, and we did that for a while, which was like at the end of the week when we were doing, I was hosting a stream every day, and I always really look forward to it because we just kind of hang out with chat. It was like a nice end to the week. It's always great watching you create, and it's just heaps of fun. And so I very selfishly always kind of default to that, just to hang out with you and put some music on.
Very happy to do that. It's a very nice way to spend some time. Sorry, I'm trying to redeem my frog drawing here. I was going a little bit too loose. You look kind of like a dinosaur, or I don't know. Do you know that Olsen? He's a bit of a manic frog drawer. He's got lots of famous frogs. He does.
Who is? I missed that.
John Olsen. Do you know that painter?
John Olsen, I do. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I might do this froggy on one layer here, and then I'll sort of paint underneath. So again, I'll go for my watercolor brushes to do a bit of work with this guy. Yeah, no, I think in some of the additional streams, I mean, I'm very open to if anybody in chat has suggestions of what we could work on. But I downloaded Fresco on my phone the other day, which is bizarre. It's amazing how far all that stuff has come, and all the tools are there, and that's been really fun to play around with. I haven't quite worked out how to get a better stylus than my finger to work on that with, but it's been really fun.
Yeah.
All right. Let's build up this guy a little bit more. And I might give him some little dots or something.
When you showed that artwork that you'll be sort of printing on a decal on the gallery, is there anything particular you have to do in terms of exporting from Fresco?
No, with that, it's on transparent layers already.
Yeah.
Actually, the one thing I'm not entirely sure about is if I do publish an export and I export one of my pictures, so I can send it as a PNG, so that'll be a transparent file. That's the main thing. Just not sure if there's an opportunity to change to CMYK, because it does need to be a CMYK file. Anyway, I can convert it later on in Photoshop, but it'd be interesting to find out if that's a feature that's possible.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming all of this is it must be an RGB. Yeah, we're using RGB sliders.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool. Hey, so we've got about a minute left, so I want to make sure that we have time to thank you and everybody for joining us. So I think we'll wrap up.
No worries. Well, thank you so much for hanging out and seeing me sort of experiment with the stuff live. I'd really encourage anyone who's got the software and hardware to give it a go, to play around with it, because it's a whole lot of fun. And it's one of those things that, like, I haven't quite found the place for it in my sort of workflow yet, but it sort of opens up all these potentials and opportunities that I'm really keen to explore. So with things like this window, I'm just keen to see where I can take it. So it's been great, and thank you so much for watching, everyone.
Yeah, thank you everyone, and thanks for hanging out. We will be back same time, but on Friday next week, and we've got another 2 streams. So jump into the Discord if you have any suggestions or what you want to see. We'll be doing lots of streams with some other artists as well. So let us know what you want to see in the Discord. We'll share a link to that in chat. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, have a great day, guys. See you later.